Hi everyone. In this video I want to talk about polynomial division, which is a technique that we can use for factoring polynomials. So the big observation that we've had so far that lets us use polynomial division is the connection between a factor and a root. Okay, so what we've said is we have a root at x equals c, or we have a 0 at x equals c, if and only if we have x minus c as a factor. Okay, so what this is telling me is if I know what one of my zeros are, then that corresponds to a factor. So once I've found a zero, once I know that I have a particular zero, we're going to use this technique of polynomial division to divide out our factor. So what we're going to be doing is being given a zero, the number that is a zero, and we're going to see how we can remove or factor out a term of this form, x minus c. Okay, so here's an example. I'm going to give us a polynomial, and so the polynomial that I'm going to work with today is p of x, which is equal to x cubed plus x squared minus 2x minus 8. Okay, so this is my polynomial, and what I'm going to do is tell us that I have a 0 at this value, which I'll say a is equal to 2 is a 0. Okay, so if I plug in 2, what I should find is that I get an output of 0. So let's go ahead and let's just check this really quickly. So if I check p of 2 is equal to 2 cubed plus 2 squared minus 2 times 2 minus 8. So this is 8 plus 4 minus 4 minus 8. If we see here, I have plus 8 minus 8, so those are going to cancel. Plus 4 minus 4, those are going to cancel. And I end up getting this all equal to 0. Okay, so with this observation so far, I know that if I plug in 2, I get an output of 0. So what that tells me is x equals 2 is a 0 of my polynomial. Okay, so what this means is I should be able to find a factor, x minus c. Okay, so x minus c should be a factor of my polynomial. What this means to me is that if I have my polynomial p of x, I should be able to write it in this form. I should be able to write it as x minus 2 times something. Okay, so it should be x minus 2 times something over here that I don't know what it is yet. Okay, so the process of polynomial division is going to allow me to figure out what goes over here. So I know that I can factor out x minus 2, but I don't know what's going to be left over. And so through polynomial division, that's what we're going to figure out today. Okay, so let me pause the video here, and then I'm going to clean all this up, and we'll come back and we're going to set up our polynomial division. Okay, so we're back, and we have our polynomial here, x cubed plus x squared minus 2x minus 8, and we know that we have this number a equal 2, which is in fact a 0. So if I plug it in, I get 0. Alright, so when we do polynomial division, this is going to be a lot like the long division that we've done probably a long time ago. And so what we do is I'm going to take this polynomial p of x and I'm going to divide into it. So I use this symbol right here. Right, so this is sort of telling us we're dividing into it, and I put my polynomial inside of this this bar here, right? So x cubed plus x squared minus 2x minus 8 goes in here. Okay, so on the outside of this, I know from over here that 2 is one of my zeros. Okay, so what I'm going to do is on the outside of this thing, I put my factor. So this is the thing that I want to factor out. So since 2 was a 0, I know that x minus 2 is a factor. Okay. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go through the process of division. So the basic process is just this. I'm always going to look at this x term, and I'm going to ask myself, what do I have to multiply this by to get to the next term that I'm working with? Okay, so just to start out, we're going to take this x and we ask ourselves, what do I have to multiply this x by to get to x cubed? Okay, so what do I have to multiply x by to get to x cubed? So if we think about that for a second, it seems to me like what I have to do is I have to multiply by x squared. And so what I do is I put the answer to that question up here. Okay, so x times x squared is equal to x cubed. Okay. Great. So the next step is, what we're going to do is I'm going to take my x squared and I'm going to multiply it by all of this term right here. So x squared times x and x squared times negative 2. And I'm going to write it underneath the blue polynomial. Okay, so x squared times x is x cubed. X squared times negative 2 is negative 2x squared. Okay, and then I'm going to subtract. Okay, so then I'm going to subtract all of this, and I'm going to see what I get. Okay, so if I'm subtracting, what I have to do is I have to distribute this negative. And so if I'm going to distribute the negative, what I do is I get rid of the parentheses through distributing that negative. Okay, so these are going to go away, but then I have a negative x cubed, and then I'm going to have a negative times a negative here, which makes this a plus. Okay, I distribute that negative through. And now I just add. Okay, so x cubed minus x cubed is 0, so these are going to cancel, which is great. I should see that every time. And then my next term, what I'm going to get is x squared plus 2x squared gives me 3x squared. Okay, so what I do is I take that 3x squared and I write it down here, and I bring all of my other terms down. Okay, so this minus 2x has to come down, and this minus 8 has to come down, and I'm going to get a new polynomial, 3x squared minus 2x minus 8. Okay. So what I've done so far is I've illustrated one step of this, and what we do is we just keep doing this process. Right, so we're just going to keep going. Right, we're just going to keep going. So let's give ourselves a little bit more space here. All right, so I go through the same process again. I ask myself, what do I have to multiply x by to get to 3x squared? I think about that for a second. I say, what's the answer to that question? X times what is 3x squared? And if I think about that, I think the answer is a positive 3x. So I'm going to put that up here, okay? So I'm going to put that up here, positive 3x. All right, so x, to get to 3x squared, I had to multiply by 3x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back around and say, step 2, I take this number and multiply it by this term over here, okay? And where I'm going to write it is underneath my polynomial. So 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times negative 2 is negative 6x. And then we go ahead and we subtract all of this. Okay. So when I go through subtraction, what I need to do is distribute my negative. So this becomes a positive, and then my parentheses go away. Okay, so then I don't have these parentheses anymore. So it should be negative 3x squared plus 6x. I combine everything and I'm going to get a new polynomial. So a good thing to check is this first term should always cancel. So 3x squared minus 3x squared, those go away. I look over here, I have negative 2x plus 6x is going to be plus 4x. And then I bring this term down and I have a minus 8. All right, and so we're just going to keep going through this process. So no matter how big our polynomial is, we just keep going through this process, the same thing. I ask myself, what do I have to multiply x by to get to 4x? The answer to that question is positive 4. Then I take that answer plus 4, I multiply it by all of this, and I write it underneath. So you get 4x minus 8, and then I subtract everything. What do I get? Well, I see 4x minus 8 minus 4x minus 8. So if I take something and subtract itself, I get 0. Okay, so what's great about this is since I have a 0 at the bottom, this tells me that my remainder is 0. So I have a remainder of 0. So if I know that I had a factor, x minus 2, this is what I should see at the end. I should have a remainder of 0. If I don't get a remainder of 0, then I did something wrong. I don't have a factor. X minus 2 would not be a factor of this polynomial, x cubed plus x squared minus 2x minus 8. So since this happened, since I got a remainder of 0, I feel pretty good about this. Okay, so let's take this and let's pause for a second. All right, so we're back. We just had some video technicalities. So what I want to do is take all of my work here, and I'm just going to shrink it down and put it over here to the side so that I can still reference it. All right, so I have my polynomial division that I worked out over here on the side, and let's see how we can interpret this. All right, so what I had is I had this polynomial p of x is equal to x cubed plus x squared minus 2x minus 8. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to write it as x minus 2 times something. Okay, and so through that process, through the process of polynomial division, I came over here and I said, well, it looks like I got this thing up here at the top, x squared plus 3x plus 4. And what this is telling me is the thing that I'm missing, what I need to multiply by in order to get back to x cubed plus x squared minus 2x minus 8 is going to be this x squared plus 3x plus 4. And so my polynomial, when I write this all said and done, p of x is going to be equal to, right, so in blue we have this x cubed plus x squared minus 2x minus 8, which is equal to x minus 2 times x squared plus 3x plus 4. Okay, so by hand, if I'm trying to factor my polynomial, this process of polynomial division is very helpful for me. Right? So I go through the whole process and I'm able to now write this polynomial in a factored form. So I have x minus 2 as one of my factors, and then I have everything left over on the end. So this is x squared plus 3x plus 4. Right? So if I wanted to continue factoring this polynomial, what I would do is then I could start working with this quadratic, and we have some techniques for that. All right, so what we're going to do in our next video, I'm going to take this same process of polynomial division, and we're going to see how we can take all of this stuff that we did over here, all of these steps over here, and write them down in a more convenient way. So I'll see you then.